Hello, and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a weekly book club podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include them in our role-playing campaigns. With me back again, once more in the co-host seat, is my wonderful friend and co-host Hamilton. Hi, Hamilton. How are you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be back in the co-hosting chair. And
yes. We both left. We both left it a little bit negative last time, so I'm thinking this time, hopefully a little bit better.
Yeah. And it's actually quite nice to just look at some, for want of a better term, like basic D&D things. Do you know what I mean? So like,
yeah, we've done a lot of adventures recently.
Yeah,
which has been great. You know, it's been nice to see the sort of the breadth and like going, we like this and we definitely don't like that. You know, so it's nice to go back to stories and be like, what can we improve and stuff like that. But yes, back this today for some rules. Hooray!
Yay! Exactly. I also like in your background, you've got your tag, your Instagram tag, just there, just in case you forgot.
In case I forget, yeah. No, my friend Naomi at Dragon Meet gave me like this little like basically it's like a little magnet, white clipboard thing that you can put on your like a name tag on your thing, and you can make it whatever you want. And so I put my my go-to tag for all the socials on it because no one saw it because I was busy running about. So no one, you know, it's like, I guess you could put your pronouns on it or your name or whatever. But yeah, now
that's cool. That's a good idea.
No, it's a great idea.
But it's also good, like if you're streaming, so people can see, oh, there's the tag.
My thing. Or I could like say rude words on it and hopefully no one notices. That's the other thing. Let's just dive right into it then, shall we?
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about today? What is our topic of choice?
Oh, we are looking at the Artificer.
Artificer. Yes.
Artificer. Yeah, no, the Artificer. Artificer. I don't know. What do you say?
I say Artificer is what I say.
Artificer. Yeah, I say Artificer. I can't say it now.
Oh no.
Artificer.
Artificer. Yes.
Artificer. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, we're looking at the UA for the Artificer.
Yeah, we're looking at the UA 2024. My only little negative thing is I was a bit surprised that it wasn't in the player's handbook. It felt a little bit cheap to not put it in. Like, granted, Blood Hunter, maybe I kind of get that, but I felt...
Well, the Blood Hunter class is technically a critical role class from way back when, so that makes sense not to be part of the official stuff. But I agree, like I think like Artificer first came out in the Eberron source book and then was sort of immortalized in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, so there was a kind of bit of like why is it not included as part of the main set, as it were. And I don't know whether, again, they've not really said why they haven't included it necessarily, or rules, you know, like reasons why. Maybe it was like, oh, it's too big, so it's technically not a part of the, you know, maybe some people don't want to have artificers in the world or anything like that, but it seems so silly because it's like you always have that sort of inventor type trope. Certainly when we've looked at worlds like Kryn, you know, we've got the sort of madcap, wild thinking, like gnomes, all that sort of thing. So Artificer makes sense. And I will say this, I am a big fan of the Artificer class. Ever since I saw Critical Role, I've said this before, Sam Riegel doing an unplay-tested Artificer, and I just really fell in love with that sort of character, that sort of like showing that you could play characters not as like science, but more like I built these robots to help me because I'm pretty inept at everything. I was like, great. And also that particular game, that character was customized a little bit more. So again, it's like taking the original class and then tweaking it. So I was actually seeing homebrew in real time, as it were. So I just, so I too was a bit shocked that it wasn't in the player's handbook, as you said. But now we have some UA that's come out, some Unearthed Arcana. Well, I don't know where it will turn up, this Artificer class, whether it's going to turn up in the Faerun campaign
That's
primer.
What I thought.
I don't know, really.
But it's weird because it's an Eberron thing, but like to then do that. But I can only imagine that's where it would be. Otherwise, unless there's an Eberron thing, you know, 2 years down the line, and this is just to keep people happy until then. But yeah, I would assume. That's what I was assuming, like the campaign guide for.
I assume it's the campaign setting primers that we're looking at, because it's not going to be the anthology or the starter pack. Yeah,
no.
Exactly. So I'm just it's a bit weird, perhaps. But you know what? I'm always welcoming. Thinking of them updates, and it shows that they're willing to keep on updating even after the 50th and share it with people. So I always think that is a positive, you know. And that I've always said this with the Unearthed Arcana, and they have done this, you know, over the last couple of years, is getting the audience to play test stuff and see what works, what doesn't work. And what I did appreciate when it came to the 50th, I don't know if you saw, they had videos about like why they did the Unearthed Arcana. So we saw some really wild things when we looked at it ourselves. They were like, well, why did you do that? He goes, well, we knew that this is the time to push and test things out. And yeah, whilst not all of these new wild features got into the player's handbook, we knew that, okay, the players don't want to play with like only 3 schools of magic, all that sort of thing. So I just thought it was interesting that they went into it going like, let's just try it and see how people.
Well, like the Epic Boons thing, where that was your 20th level, and everyone was like, "Wow, that is so not
Rubbish.
the level it should be." And pushing it to 19th as a kind of good way to manage it was much better. But yeah, you're right. It's good that they did test them, and this is the fun thing about, not every big company does this, and a gaming company, and at this scale, a lot of them, do allow you to get involved in beta testing or alpha testing if you try and find the route in. But the openness that happens with these UAs is really good, and I think and the fact that there's a clear and easy fill out form that you can do to give feedback. And the fact that it happens. We saw it with the stuff while we were on the Witchlight, when we were looking at the Horror and stuff like that. And then even and the ones for Strixhaven, like the Owlins, and there were changes between those that came back out of them. So it's been consistently showing response to feedback. So I think it's really positive.
So yeah, let's just get started then with what we've got. So different about this UA maybe compared to other UAs is that it is like a full class. So the sort of 4 builds that we've had, sort of subclasses, for the Artificer, they're included here, and each of them have tweaks as well. And we'll probably go over a quick overview of them as well. Yeah. So let's just talk about what it is to be an Artificer in case people haven't listened to one of the very early episodes of this book club. But it is basically a magical crafter and inventor of wonders, masters of invention. Artificers use ingenuity and magic to unlock extraordinary capabilities in objects. So it's that sort of like looking into the nitty-gritty details, and like a Lego master builder is how I see it. You see the potential of every single brick to change things. So whilst this is a support class primarily, like it's looking at trying to do things to help on the battlefield, there's some of these sub classes that make it that you are the forefront person. I'm 100%. Thinking more of the armor with certain builds of that you can do with different armors and stuff like that, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, no, and even Artillerist even as well. I mean, they're pretty powerful as well. It finds a nice niche, like I feel that Bard does, where you are both a really useful support class and a really useful in your own right, and you can manage those, whilst clerics can sort of fall down a little bit, even though they got quite good hit points comparative to others. But like a wizard isn't going to be supporting many people, except to probably give someone haste every so often. But yeah, it's definitely, I like it as a balanced class. And I think I wouldn't recommend it to newcomers, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know. You say that. I think it's a lot easier now than it was, because primarily one of the big things that they have changed, looking into the actual design notes. And again, I'm very grateful that rather than having to look back through 2 books, like I did look back through Tasha's as well to see what was different. But they did decide to put design notes about what has changed, the change log, as it were. One of the things that they've changed is the infused item, which essentially was just like a very lengthy process of like how you would create these how you would create magical items. And I don't know, maybe I played it wrong when I was playing my version of the Artificer or seeing it, but like basically the replicate item would just be like, you need all these materials and you need this time and you need to do all this, and then you have the item. And now they just streamlined it to be like, you create a list of items from this list of items, and you can go up to, I believe it's like 5 or something like that, or 6 perhaps.
It matches your intelligence modifier. Right. Up to the number of your intelligence modifier.
Perfect. So and I just was like, oh, it's so much easier because I was always like, certainly in D&D Beyond, it was like, okay, I've got this infused item. Where does it go? What does it look like? And trying to work out that. Now it's just like, you replicate an item, here it is, and it could be very basic, like I said, like bag of holding, or it could be up to like an armor or something like that. And it was just so much easier now. And I think that infused item sounded really, that was it, because you had to have like the item itself, so the sword, the armor, have all the materials, and now you just make it. It's not worried too much about components,
Sorry, apologies. Magical tinkering is related to the number of items equal to your intelligence modifier. However, replicate magic item has a number related to the level you are. So it's so you get more plans that you know, so you know a number of plans, and then you have a number of magic items you can create up to. And so if you, for example, if you're at level 6, you can have 5 plans and you can make 3 magical items. If you make a 4th, the most distant one you made, or the oldest one you made, disappears and you create a new one, basically.
That's right. And if you get all the way to level 20, you know 8 plans and can have up to 6 items, which is pretty good.
I would suggest potentially that I don't like the negating of what plans you know as a limiting factor. I would say that you can find the plans by finding these objects and interrogating them for a set number of time, and then you can replicate it. Or you find spells with a wizard, they might find new spells by finding a spell book. I would have the same thing, that you come to a tinkerer or an engineer's space and then roll on this table and you can find 1 or 2, or just choose from the list that you wanted to find, sort of thing. But I wouldn't cap them at the amount of spells, the amount of plans they could know, because campaigns can go on for a long time, and limiting it to just only knowing 8, if you have a campaign that runs for 5 years, feels a little bit
hard,
cheap.
Doesn't it? Yeah. I don't know, because if you look at the plans themselves, so I'm thinking of level 2 plus, so those basic ones, you got alchemy jug, bag of holding, cap of water breathing always turns up in these things. I'm going when will this ever come up? But then it's common magic item that isn't a potion scroll or cursed, which I think it's nice that they had that, hey, not cursed. And you're like, oh, interesting.
But when can I curse it?
Yeah. I was going to say, how does that work? Do you just spell something? Is it you change one letter? So it's a wire ball instead.
You write it backwards or something.
Yeah. Goggles of night, rope of climbing, sending stones, always useful sending stones, I find. +1 shield, wand of magic detection, wand of secrets, wand of the war mage. War mage is a pretty powerful item for such a low level, and then a +1 weapon. And then as you go further and further up, so say if you're going, so basically when you get to a certain level, it expands what kind of plans you would know. It gets to the point where you're okay, you're level 10 now, you can get magical items, so uncommon or wondrous items that isn't cursed. And then finally, if you get to level 14 plus, you can have a magic item plan, which is rare, so armor, ring, 1 weapon, etc. That is, again, not cursed. So I like how it leaves it open, and possibly leaves it open for you and the GM to homebrew what that plan is, so you can make your own items as well. So you're not, so at the beginning you're limited to very basic ones, but very helpful, useful ones. You always need a rope of climbing. Bag of holding. I love bags of holding. Sending stones, but also having it as a not one use, but having it and go, right, well, we don't need these anymore, so I can unmake them. So again, makeshift walkie-talkies, cups with string is what I can imagine. And so you can be a bit flavoursome with that, of how you've created these particular items.
I love all of that. The only thing that the other thing that I didn't, was not cool in some ways about, is the fact that when you die, the magic item vanishes after 1d4 days. I think that's a bit weird. It feels like you've infused the magical energy into something to create it. The fact that it's linked to your personage is interesting. It's as if you've given up a part of your soul to create, or magical ability, to create it, which I think is kind of, I don't know, it's making an interesting theory about what artificers are, which I thought was
I guess it's to maybe stop that whole I don't like playing this character anymore, I'm just going to kill them, but you can have all the items I've made, and then everyone's stocking up on certain items.
That's cheesing, I guess. I think I would just suggest, also, what a sad way as well, suddenly your bag of holding disappears.
What? You've got 1d4 days to find out. Get all your reusable bag for life with all the gems in it,
But it just it feels like it's to stop people cheesing it. But again, that's something I would get rid of. I would say unless someone was cheesing it, I've made a character, I've made 2 things, now they die. Now I've made 2 things, now they die. And I'm well, that's silly. I don't think anyone's gonna do that, really.
I don't really know what the purpose is of it. If you were a GM or a DM who made NPCs, and is that the same thing? This NPC artificer passes away or whatever, and then all their magical things in their shop just go inert. I don't know what the purpose is of that. I don't know. Yeah, weird.
Very strange.
Maybe jumping back a little bit, but magical tinkering. Sorry.
Yes.
So this has changed a bit, and
yeah,
I have a question about this for you. So I'll read it out. as it is now in the UA, it says, as a magic item, whilst holding the Tinkerer's tools, you can create one item in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you, choosing from the below list. And they're all sort of very basic, like ball bearings, rope, block and tackle, all that sort of bedroll. And it goes, you can use this feature a number of times to your intelligence modifier, like you said, but they disappear after 1 hour. I'll be honest, I guess it's like, the only time I can see this being used is like, oh, damn, we need a rope. So, well, I've got one, and that's it. Yeah. Before, what it used to be was this, you would create...
It was indefinite.
Not even that, you'd have these free objects that, again, maybe they were a bit silly, but they were like, it's a object that makes noise, and it can record a message, or it'd be a distraction. And I thought that was just more flavoursome, more interesting, because then you can go, this could be a distraction whilst we go do something like that. Whereas these are like, I've just got what we need. So it's almost like, how are we going to get up this big mountain? He goes, don't worry, I've got climber's tools. But we have to get there within an hour.
Yeah, but a bedroll seems really weird to last for only 1 hour.
There's something like blanket.
Yeah. Why? Like, it doesn't make sense. I think that's the one thing I totally agree with. I would have just made them, they last until the end of the day,
a long rest,
until you cancel it, and just say you can only have up to a number equal to your intelligence modifier at one time. And if you make a new one, it replaces it, but you can only have, or you have a number that you can cast per day, and then there's a number you can have at the same time. So you can never have more than 5, and you can only cast 5 a day, sort of thing, or whatever it is.
Just going through the moment, like ball bearings kind of makes sense. Basket, I guess, but bedroll was just really weird. We've got blanket, a pouch that lasts for an hour. I'm just thinking again in those situations, like when I need something for an hour and then return it.
Paper. I'm going to draw on this piece of paper and then, it's gone in an hour.
Make sure you remember. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was really weird compared to the previous one with the like 3 kinds of objects, which were like maybe a bit silly, but I was like, clockwork. You're fiddling with them constantly and it's like done and you set them off or something like that. Like that felt more, like I said, flavoursome is what I meant. Here it feels really boring. If anything, it's that thing you do in improv, right? Where you're like, okay, we've got a problem. And it's not about solving the problem, it's about like developing the relationships. But it's like as if someone's coming to the scene going like, oh man, I'm never going to pay for this car. And someone goes, well, here's a loan. No, that's the end of the scene. You've already solved the problem. So that's what it feels like. It's like I've got something for that. Yeah, right tool for the job.
They're really not that great. So I would just stick with, you can have up to your intelligence modifier at one time. And that is it. You know what I mean? And because what are you going to do? Maximum +5. I can cheese this by having 5 bedrolls. You're not really 5 caltrops. Like, it's
5
not
jugs,
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like you're really cheesing the game. So I would just stick with that, and that you can then have 5 bedrolls for everyone if you're out in the wilderness.
That said, I think what I would change this to is like, okay, you can like anything in your bag, you've got it, right? And you've got to justify to me, the GM, how you've got that thing, and it makes the Artificer, maybe the player, think a little bit more about like what they have. So the bedroll stuff is like, I've just got it. I don't know, I bought a mattress from Casper, and it just happens to be on the bag or something. I don't know. It's just like, I just feel like these are all very specific, and maybe it's like, okay, when would I use these? But what it means, I feel like, is that I'm be looking at this list going like, when would I ever use this? And just focusing on the character sheet rather than like engaging the role play. Whereas if I didn't have any suggestions, like if it's like, maybe oil, maybe paper or whatever, but it could be anything that you have to hand. I'd be like, I have some rations that I've left at the bottom of my bag, and they're crushed together, but they'll do. It's like, that's the kind of like what I see is like just one use, like one-off items, perhaps. I don't know.
It feels like a simple one to change, and probably is something they will change. It feels like it when you read it, because it seems a bit odd. It seems a bit odd. So you then get right tool for the job has pretty much unchanged. Really, it's just been added into your magical tinkering. But what I feel is a bit of a shame they got rid of was the tool expertise, because that used to be getting a double proficiency bonus for getting tools, and I think you get instead now it just adds to your magic item tinkering, which is fine. I think it's a useful thing to have. It feels like something that they would have, and I feel like they could have just added it onto like right tool for the job, but push that later, or added it into Flash of Genius or Magic Item Adept, and which are the two next ones that come along after the update to the Magic Item Tinker, are saying that like because Magic Item Adept says you have profound understanding of how to use and make magic items, creating the following abilities. You have an additional attunement stop, and you get when you learn to plan for your replicated magic item, you can now also choose for the Magic Item Plan's Artificer 10 level. So it just upgrades your magic item level. But I think you could also just add there, and now your proficiency with all tools is doubled, because I think it feels like it's missing, and that was the only thing that I felt. I know they've also changed other things in that, but it was just something that jumped out at me when looking at those.
But also, it's okay, artisan tools, but actually that doesn't include all of the tools we're thinking of. So it doesn't include stuff like disguise kit or forgery kit, or even like a herbalism kit, for example.
Yeah,
I would probably put those in as well. Like again, just because like, okay, these tools, like so we put out an episode on tools with Shahid from the One Shot Network, and it's really changed my mind about how we use tools, rather than like, well, I've got Mason's tools, what can I do with those? I was thinking like, if you can put stuff together, even if it's shoddy, maybe you can roll for how good it is. Like it's a really shoddy disguise kit, but at least it's a wig, you know. That was the only thing. I was like, why not expand it to all things? Even the gaming set, you could be like, okay, I've played this game called Garbage. I've got some playing cards, but they're all from different sets. But you'll get you get the rules. Like I think, like again, it's that sort of improv thing that you can just pull things together. But yeah, it should apply to all the stuff that you have for those when you keep selecting your tools, I think. Yeah, because again, if we're trying to be more like thinking outside the box, like Lego Master Builder style, we should include all the tools rather than just keep it to those artisan tools, I think. So
no, I totally agree. I think that's a good point, and it feels like the herbalism thing, they would have some sort of alchemical knowledge potentially, and yeah, I'm on board with that. I didn't actually, I hadn't even realized that doesn't include those Narsan tools. I thought it just included all.
Because I think because normally it does have them all in, because it's just under tools, but now it's artisan tools. That's the thing on that.
Okay, fine. Well, that's a shame. Okay, and then Flash of Genius, they said they've changed. So before you've getting the ability to come up with solutions under pressure when you're another character that you see within 30 feet makes an ability check, or saves you can use reaction to add your intelligence modifier to the roll. You can use this up to the number of times you're in your intelligence thing.
The difference is before with Flash of Genius, because I've seen it being used. One of the Dimension 20 shows had a really cool artificer but played by Izzy Ball, and she used Flash of Genius all the time. The issue was that she would always do it before the roll, and then of course it already passed the roll, so now you add it after the roll.
I see. The difference is when you fail a roll, you can then be like, now here's something to save you,
rather than
you don't have to do it beforehand.
It is reactive rather than proactive. But it's such a slight change.
That is much better.
It's such a slight change, but it makes it worthwhile. Same thing with Bardic Inspiration, right? That's what it should be, really. It's like when you see someone fail, rather than I'll give you a D6. I mean, to be fair, Bardic Inspiration is like within the next 10 minutes, but I feel like it's like, oh, I'm going to give this to you after, because you might make it.
I think you should have reactive Bardic Inspiration there, because I feel it should be like, in the moment you see them about to fail and you go, you can do this, Jared, and then Jared goes, yes, I can.
Yeah. I guess it might depend on what level bard you are. He's like, well, they've got a 2. I think the DC is 15. I don't know if my D8 is going to do anything, but
I also wonder if you could do bard in the version of like Japanese anime flashback bard. So you're never there, or you're a bard that you're never really there, but whenever you do anything, it's because other characters have flashbacks to you telling them something when they're down, and then they get back up.
Going back one level slightly, so at level 6 you have something called Magic Item Tinker. So this is a really interesting thing which you could not do before, where basically you'll replicate magic items. So your bag of holding, you got all this stuff on you. For a bonus action, you can drain that item and turn it back into a spell slot. So basically, it's like almost like spell points or whatever it is that you have for sorcerer. I really like this idea a lot, because I can imagine like, oh shit, we're doing really bad matter. Well, I've got this spell that a level 1 or level 2 spell. I'm sorry, bag of holding. I'm sorry, cap of water breathing. And you just get rid of it, because then again, you can remake it later when you've got time. I like the idea that you just, again, it's that sort of management of resources. You go, okay, get rid of this for a bonus action. All right, now cast whatever the spell is. I just thought it was really interesting. And I again hadn't considered that, like the idea of creation of something could also be like a disintegration of something. I just thought it was just a really cool way that you're not suddenly like, well, I've got all these magic items, but I'm out of anything useful. So
yeah, well, I've seen that homebrewed in other games. Like Chris Trott's character in the first series of High Rollers had the ability to like store things in gems, and that was also what they did with Taryon Darrington.
Taryon Darrington. Yeah, it's Darrington Press. So
yeah,
Terry Derry. I don't know. Yeah,
Terry. Anyway, yeah. So and it was a similar thing, and I think you're totally right, because you get the spell storing item as an object as well. So that is similar, where you can use spellcast focuses or weapons to imbue up to level 3 now. I think it used to be level 2 maximum, which is quite amazing, and like good spells that you can put in there. And that gives you loads more, because that even gives you the ability to use it up to like maximum of twice your intelligence modifier. So it means you've actually stored a lot of spells in there. And planning that in advance is a cool thing to do. But you're right, in that moment of like, we're out spell slots, chuck me the bag of holding, now, because I will destroy that and I've got one more spell slot to use, like in a desperate situation, is a kind of fun. I think it's really thematic and could be a really fun thing in the game.
As the further up the levels you go, you get up to like level 18 eventually, magic item master, so you can now attune up to 6 magic items at once rather than 3, which is again, if you're building up your like, okay, I've made my own armor, I've made my own wand of the war mage or anything like that. So again, I like this idea that you are a proper like cosplayer. You're like level 1, and you've got like your Link outfit that you store bought, and then suddenly you're like, I am now Legend of Zelda, like big hat, big ears, everything. It's that progression. It's like that the artist sort of thing where you're like, this is where I was, this is where I am now. That detailedness. I quite enjoy that. Yeah, and you'll always have more magic items than everyone else, which is great. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
That's right. No, and it feels like you should, like 100% should.
Like you kitted yourself out. You are the proper min-maxer of everyone else. But the one I wanted to talk about really was level 20, the Soul of Artifice. Oh, this is so much cooler now, because before...
It's the best level 20 I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and it was, I admit, I thought it was always pretty good. So beforehand in Tasha's, it was like, you always get a +1 to your saving throws, which I thought was, great. And then cheat death, which is basically, if you reduce yourself to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can get rid of an uncommon or rare item from your replicate magic spell, and then beforehand you would just get back up to 1 hit point. Now it's like you're back up to 20, so it's not like a last gasp of breath, because you could easily just get killed in the next go, as it were. But I like the idea that you're back up to 20 as well. I just thought it was really cool.
It just makes a big difference, doesn't it? Because if you're up to 1, someone can just like tap you on the shoulder and you're down again.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
You've fallen over, absolutely. Yeah. But instead of that so they got rid of the +1 to saving throws and death saving throws, which I get it. It's fine. Like I just feel like I guess because you've got the ability score improvements, you could always put those into there as well. But now they've got something called magical guidance, which is if you've got attunement to at least 1 magical item, you can add a 1d6 to any ability check you made. You can decide to add the die after rolling the d20 and use this benefit only once per turn. So again, that's really cool. Like you were like, it always just like a little bit extra. And I like the idea that you could justify why you're using, like, oh, I got this D6 from my ring, and it just shines in a certain way, and it blinds the other person, and I don't know. So again, this whole class is about improvising and giving you an extra bit of pieces. So maybe it requires you to be a bit more creative, perhaps, in your descriptions. But I think it gets me excited. And this final level 20. Amazing. I really like it as a feature.
And I also think, again, using the idea that it destroys a magical item by doing it, you disintegrate it. I'd like the idea, if it doesn't have to be on your person, you just disintegrate it wherever it is in the world. And you could have it in if it was in like a show or something like that, you would have it, so you would show that in an episode. So you'd have like a fight. You really go at the Artificer, so they're down and they break one of their magical infusions and they come back to life, and so you see it. And then like a few episodes later, everyone's like downstairs talking, and the Artificer's like, I'll go check what that noise is. And then like 20 minutes later, like the bag of holding dissipates, and like, wait, what? And then like someone else's magical sword dissipates, and they're like, holy shit, quick, run. They've obviously gone down twice, like let's find them, and it's a good way to like have that, it's little, it just made me think of those little things that you could play with them, which is quite fun.
And I'd say as well, that is also a reaction as well to do that. It's not like when you go down, you use your reaction to it no longer requires a reaction. It can just happen as a free, which is great.
So you can do it up to 5 times if you've got +5 modifier. You've got 5 of those
once
things
per
built.
turn, essentially, for the
That's pretty cool.
So I think all the improvements, the little tweaks and stuff like that, I've really made it more interesting. Like I said, that the only things we sort of talked about like, would this be improved, is the magical tinkering, and that's the thing. I think the only thing I dislike about this UA, and I've said this at the beginning, was that I think it just removes the flavor of it a little bit.
Yes.
Like it just, and maybe it's because we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know if it's going to be in that campaign setting with the Forgotten Realms or anything like that. But I'm just there like going, I need ideas. This whole class is about the madcap inventor coming up with stuff. Where's that flavor? That's the only thing I missed from this particularly, I find.
But they've sort of done that throughout the whole of the UAs that we've had for all of these classes. It's always been a much drier experience of this is the text, because this is what you're here for. You're not here for the prettiness. You're here for just the raw like story of it. So it kind of makes sense.
All right. Shall we move on then to the subclasses?
Yeah. So you start off with the Alchemist. Each one of these is very useful. Again, it gives us a little like, this is where they've made the changes.
Yeah.
But I feel again, this one has just generally got better. Like everything they've done has just made it better. You get the tool proficiency, so you gain proficiency with Alchemist supplies, which is where again maybe this is where and with one other type of artisan tools. But I think you're right. This one definitely could be like, and possibly herbalism kit or medicine kit
or poisoner's kit.
Kit. All those things feel totally valued, particularly for this one. And then you move up to experimental elixir, and I think the healing is the biggest thing. I think it's so much more powerful. I was like, bloody hell, this is better than some of the healings you get. And with the amount that you can make, it's better than the healings you can get from like Healing Word or even just Cure Wounds. That it's actually quite good. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's experimental and therefore you have to roll a d6, which is a little bit...
See, I was going to say I like that as a result.
But, okay, fine. You like the chaos of it.
But this is the thing, as a lot of people do not like it. So so basically for the experimental elixir, so whenever you finish a long rest whilst holding your alchemical supplies, so like you're just holding them like this, like to your chest, clutching them tightly, you can use that tool to create 2 elixirs. And for each elixir, you roll on this d6 table, one of which, number 1, is that healing, which is now a 2d8 plus your intelligence modifier. So absolutely cracking. The other ones as well, you got like a swiftness potion, a resilience potion, which is just a +1 to AC for 10 minutes. Boldness, so adding a 1d4 to a number and add the number to every attack roll for the next minute. Again, very good. Flight, you get a flight speed of 10 feet, which is not much, but it's something. And then 6 is now random. You can determine what the elixir is, which I think is that's rubbish. I think they should go back to at least. I can't remember what it was in the original
transformation. So you get basically alter self,
right?
Alter self, it's a good one.
I like that one, but I guess they wanted something that was, I don't know, immediate in combat, perhaps.
I think also giving you 1 in 3 chances of what you want. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you've then you might get the one you want, or you might get an opportunity to choose what you want. So that's kind of nice in some ways. But
and things like for me, I like the idea of it being experimental, because again, it's like, okay, what resources have you got to hand, etc. But I agree, some people would probably hate it, and I bet a lot of people will just homebrew it as like, you can choose which ones you want, or which ones are going to be used the most. But then somebody I saw, I don't know if it is later actually, but someone said like maybe you could homebrew it so that after you've rolled the same one 3 times, you could just automatically create that one. Like you've learned it enough. So why would you be at level 15 plus and you'd be like, damn, I still haven't got that healing draft right. It's another potion of boldness. I don't know. But I like it. But also you can also say if you want to create more elixirs, you expand what a spell slot as well. So again, you might be like, I didn't get the ones I want. I'll have a go at another one. I personally don't mind the randomness of it. I'm a big fan of it, but I don't think people will be using it. I genuinely think people will be picking it rather than anything else.
Yeah, there's something fun about it, and it gives with that kooky, like, oh, I don't, I'm a bit chaotic, and it's just kind of, I'm just going to chuck all this shit in and see what happens, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But maybe at like level 15, you get like an advantage on your roll or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and what's interesting again, when you get to like level 15 upwards, you can create up to 5 of these elixirs, right?
Yes.
I wonder then maybe, I mean, I don't want to put like limitations on stuff like that, but maybe like you can only create 3 of one potion because that's all you've got. And I'm there like, yeah, because otherwise all they'll do is like have 5 healing potions, right? That's what I would do at level 15 because it makes most sense. But
bloody useful.
It is useful. I think the swiftest one is always quite useful as well. Extra. I guess maybe there needs to be scaling of the other ones because obviously the D8 2D8 for the potion of healing is really good, but then maybe if you get good at these potions, swiftness you actually gain plus 30 feet. You can get a D6 to boldness, that sort of thing. I think you would perfect recipes so they scale up a little bit rather than, I mean, they're supposed to add and tweak stuff, so which is all what's part of being the Artificer's about. But I just wondered maybe that's how I would maybe make it a bit more appealing rather than just constantly going for that 2d8 plus intelligence modifier. You see what I mean? Because it is just free healing as an action for your downtime,
I really like the idea of making them boost up, and I think if that feels a bit lightweight actually not doing that when you consider it now, particularly when like 2d8 plus your intelligence modifier is good. I'm not saying it's not, but if you're, as you say, if you're like at level 20, 2d8 is half a hit. It's like half the damage you're probably going to take in that round, if at all. So I think if your healing can like double, by that, so it's, as you said, it goes up by a die. So start it lower, even maybe start at that low level with just 2d4, then it goes 2d6, 2d8, 2d10, 2d12 or something like that, or it's 2d8, 3d8, 4d8, 5d8, like really go for it.
It's really potent. It's like, is it like a little bitter taste to it or something like that?
Exactly, And swiftness, like speed increases by 10 feet, speed increases by 20 feet. You gain the haste condition. You gain, it goes like up like that. And then resilience is +1 bonus AC, +2, +3. It's kind of really easy, and homebrewing it now. Let's do it.
Actual homebrew. Yeah.
But also, I would suggest like choose any other like elixir that you can find at certain levels as well, and just imbue it with that. You know what I mean? Like, if there's any other sort of spell that you like, fire resistance or whatever those things are, or fire breathing, like get to those sort of levels, and you can create any up to rare elixir, or I don't know, they could make that sort of table. Maybe
what it should be, sorry, I know we're harping on about this a little bit, but it's like maybe the more you work on like the potions that's where you spend your XP. I'm thinking like Blades in the Dark, where at the end of each session you have like a number of XP, or if you train in your downtime, you get better at one thing. Maybe it's like, okay, we've got 3 slots in the resilience or whatever, and you go, right, I'm going to spend my downtime, I'm going to spend, I don't know, 1 day of downtime, I'm going to get 1 XP and I'm going to put it into the boldness. And then when you get to like 5 XP, you're like, right, you've unlocked the next level, just to make it a bit more interesting. So like you said, like maybe you have different levels because you're trying out. Maybe it's just too gamifying it, perhaps. But I just like the idea of it change. Like, it's not an automatic process. It's learning and making mistakes, etc.
That's D&D though, isn't it? Like, that's a bit of the problem with D&D, is that it's a bit too much an automatic process, rather than it feeling like you have to invest yourself into the game a bit more, or like mechanically do things. It's very much like, oh, you've just leveled up, now you know all this shit, not you've trained to do this stuff. Or
because I can imagine like maybe that 6th one is like you are learning a potion of your choice, and you'd be like, great, like you said, like, oh, we're going to the fire plane, we need like a potion of fire resistance. I'm going to spend one of my plans, or somehow get your plans into it, and like I'm going to spend my research to how do I make fire resistance potions, and then you got to spend a number of things in downtime. Again, maybe that's not just for this alchemist, maybe this is too much, but I just thought I was like, actually we could make it really detailed and make it more interesting. And I think people would want to use it, because I really like the Alchemist. In the original UA, way back when, I remember that you just had a bag in your like a bag, and you just go into your bag and you go, I'm gonna pull out. Oh, it's a tanglefoot like piece of blob, and you just throw it at the enemy. Like you would just roll, or you just grab something. You're like, I don't know what it is. I'll throw it. I hope for the best.
Like cloak of useless items or whatever it is. Like those things.
Really cool. You just like throwing it into the wilds. Absolutely.
I like that a lot. I think that's more of that actually would be kind of good. I'd like it if it was those more stupid things, like as in the randomness when it's like caltrops. Oh, okay, we'll figure out what we do.
Good luck. Yeah, exactly.
Badger. I don't know, something like that. It just, I don't know. Something crazy like that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
I like the other things they do get, like with your level 9 restorative reagents, you get temporary hit points equal to intelligence modifier plus your artificer level, which when we're talking about that, if you're saying you are at level 15, you do the healing potions, you get, if you say you got +5 by then in intelligence, you're going to get 2d8 plus 10 plus 15. So it actually becomes 2d8 plus 25. That is actually pretty impressive number. Less restoration without casting, spending a spell slot. Really good. Chemical mastery, you can cast an artifice spell that deals acid, fire, necrotic, or poison damage. You can also do 2d8 force damage, which is great because
really cool.
That's nothing really is resistance to force damage. You gain resistance to acid and poison damage. Perfectly makes sense.
A big thing, especially when like poison damage, like the big bosses, no one gives a toss about poison damage, but acid damage that's everywhere at higher levels. So I'm like, amazing. And also, just going back to the restorative agents one, it's any of the elixirs, right? So if you are swift and bold and all that sort of thing, you still get temporary hit points. So I love that as well. That you can, like, no matter what spell you do, you always get temporary hit points. You're emboldened, so you've really perfected that recipe. It's like, it does taste of strawberries. I don't know, like it's that sort of tastiness on that. But the chemical mastery. You have this new spell, I think, called Tasha's Bubbling Cauldron, which I don't.
Well, that does give you duplicates properties of common or uncommon potions of your choice, such as potions of healing. So that does do what we were saying, actually. So, and expending a spell slot, and so you can conjure a claw-footed bubbling liquid cauldron appears in unoccupied space on the ground within 5 feet of you and lasts for the duration, which is 10 minutes. The liquid cauldron duplicates properties of a common or uncommon potion of your choice. As a bonus action, you or an ally can reach in the cauldron and withdraw one potion of that kind. Potion is contained in a vial that disappears when the potion is consumed. The cauldron can produce a number of these potions equal to your spellcasting modifier. So in this case, intelligence. When the last of these potions is withdrawn from the cauldron disappears and the spell ends. So if you think about it, you're going to have a +5 then. You can cast and create up to 5 common or uncommon potions. So that is actually, that is what we were saying. So that's on top of your experimental list.
I feel level 15 is too high for that, though. You know?
Yeah, I agree. It feels like 10 would be nice.
Yeah, 10 would be nice. Again, I will say this, I don't really know, like, what is a common,
just having a quick look.
What's a rare potion? You know, like that's the only thing I'd say. Like
magic item or an equipment? Magic item.
It's probably magic item. Because I that's interesting, but that's level 15 is quite, especially if your whole shtick is about creating potions. I feel like that should be something earlier on.
Antidote against the blood of lycanthropy, bottled breath, elixir of health, which removes blinded, deaf, and paralyzed, could use any disease, oil of sharpness, oil of etherealness, oil of slipperiness, potion of animal friendship, potion of climbing, clairvoyance, aqueous form, dragon mastery. I'm not doing all of them here. I'm just kind of going to flying, vulnerability, invisibility as well. Greater invisibility is very rare, so you're not getting that.
No.
Come on. Oh, I didn't filter magic uncommon and common. There we go. Potion of advantage, potion of fire breath, potion of poison, pugilism.
Oh, that's fighting, yeah.
Water breathing, watchful rest, resistance, and healing, and thessalotoxin antidote. It's a couple of cool things, though, I think. Like, I think rare would be good. Giant strength.
Yeah, I was going to say, rare. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Or, any sort of potion doing with something to do with giants would be interesting.
You can only get hill giant strength, so you can only get strength of 21, but that's still pretty good.
Then, so they're not necessarily the best. I feel like that last one, Chemical Mastery, I feel that should be lower and we get something else. But, it still keeps in with the Alchemist, like, vibe, creating potions and stuff like that. So, I think overall, I don't mind it. It's, it is fine. I think the reason I haven't played the Alchemist for a long time is because they got rid of that your bag where you just pulled random stuff out, and I quite kind of like that. Here, obviously, again, because of the smoothing over the process, it's like, well, you can choose now, and I'm like, I like it when it's random. Yeah, let's get on to the armorer. Yes, so this is an artificer who specializes in a certain armor that modifies it to function almost like a second skin. So basically, you think, Iron Man, think anything like a cloak of some sort or anything like that. And again, as with all these things, you can flavor it however you want. But I like the idea that you've made this your armor so you are protected in battle. So that now the big update is that there used to be options for your armor. There used to be 2 options, which is always wild in my head that there was only 2, because obviously 3 is a magic number. The different models there were, originally we had Guardian and Infiltrator, but now they've added a new option, which is called Dreadnought, which essentially just means you're your own juggernaut going to the front of the battle, like, and you're in the middle.
Dreadnoughts are the coolest things in Warhammer. Yeah. They're one of the coolest things. In Warhammer, though, they are Space Marines that have died, nearly died, have lost nearly pretty much all their limbs, or are like kept in stasis and chucked into this big brutish machine to keep fighting until they do finally die.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool. But it's pretty much relatively unchanged apart from that, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the Dreadnought itself, it's like I said, Tower and Juggernaut that, you go into battle. The cool thing is that it's got an iron ball on a chain, a sort of flail that you can use around. So again, I'm thinking, like, I don't know if did you watch Labyrinth in the end? I can't remember if you did or not.
I've seen Labyrinth, yes.
Oh, so that the big Guardian in Goblin Town. That's how I imagine it. Just that sort of like big creature that's flailing around. For a bonus action, you can transform it so that you're bigger for a minute as well. So that's so cool. You've got an action called Wrecking Ball, where basically you can push the creature as you hit it with your flail up to 10 feet away from you as well. So you are making big damage dealing stuff. It's pretty cool as a result. And it totally makes sense. Like, again, you have this tiny, a smaller person like operating this giant bit of armor as well. And you can flavor it however you want. Then you got Guardian, which is like, again, you've got your Thunder Gauntlets essentially, which is really cool. You can use hitting a creature 1d8 thunder damage.
Yeah, I imagine that Henry Cavill.
Yeah, the reloading of the arms.
Reloading the arms sort of thing.
I can't remember what film that's from. I've just seen that clip so many times. It's a Mission Impossible one, isn't it? Yeah. In the bathroom. Yeah. So that's quite good. Again, it's another frontline one, perhaps. You've got Distracting Pulse. So again, you can hit a creature, and when you do this pulse, they have disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you. So again, all they're trying to do is focusing on you. And then a defensive field. So when you are bloodied, which is the first time I've seen the word bloodied for a long time. I'm sure that's come in with the changes for the player's handbook for this year. But you can take a bonus action to gain temporary hit points equal to your Artificer level. So it's almost like a second wind type thing with your hit points, which again, really, really good.
And the Infiltrator's like lightning. I think it's like a lightning Batman in some respects. So you get like I imagine it's like a lighter armor, and you get like a lightning launcher, so you can sort of it's like you shoot lightning rays out of it, which is kind of cool. Once each of your turns, you can hit a creature with lightning launcher. You can deal an extra charge of lightning, which is kind of cool. You're kind of faster, and you have this advantage on dexterity stealth checks, and even if your like armor is like heavy, where it would normally impose a disadvantage, the advantage disadvantage cancel each out of normal, which I think is pretty cool.
Feels very Terminator 2. That guy who's running after the car. That's how I was running sort of wild.
Running. Yeah, extra attacks always kind of useful. Yeah, the armor replication has slightly changed because it used to be armor modification. So you can use your artificial infusions to specifically modify your armor before. Now it's like you learn an additional plan for your replicate magical art feature, and it must be in the armor category. If you place that plan, you must place another armor plan. And so that's kind of cool. So you get to become like an armor replicator rather than being able to imbue. Now, I kind of like the old one because you could, purposely with infusion, you could use your chest piece, boots, helmet to infuse with things. And I feel like the replicate armor is kind of cool, but I'd kind of like if it was more about you can infuse magical properties into it, like spells like Armor of Agathis, for example, or you can do a reactive amount if someone take like those sorts of spells. The Armor of Agathis spell, like it does freezing, doesn't it? It's a cold damage to anyone who hits you. And I think, or like you can absorb an amount of hit points up to per turn up to your intelligence modifier. Or and here's a few different options that you could utilize. I think would feel more like I'm making my armor better.
And then we've got the perfected armor, which is again, it's just tweaking each of those 3 types that we have in terms of armor. And I realize now maybe this is what we were missing from the Alchemicalist, is maybe having a specific like specialization within the subclass itself. So like you are the poisons person, you are the healings person, you are, I'm just trying to think of anything else, you are a certain specialization, because here we've got the 3 different kinds of armors, which totally makes sense. I just think like, yeah, surely you might be better at, maybe you need 2 specializations more, that could be more healing.
I like poisoner, healer, and maybe just sort of like alchemist, which is like fire breathing and speed and everything like that, whilst the healer just focuses on like healing, cure wounds.
Maybe you only need 2, perhaps, like healing and damaging. Yeah, that's the sort of thing. I don't know, but like I just thought like this, because obviously now we've got these 3 different types, and I'm like, oh, so you can be really specialized. So I just thought, actually, maybe we need that for the Alchemist rather than being, I'm vaguely good at everything. But that's why we still have to roll for my what we're doing today. What do people fancy? You want healing? How about a potion of swiftness? You know?
Yeah, maybe that is the answer. Maybe that's the answer that fixes the problem that was kind of with it.
You know what I'd like though. Sorry, I keep going back to the Alchemicalist now, but I like the idea that you going, okay, I've bought some healing potions from the Alchemicalist, but they've not had the ingredients in, so they substituted it for, you know, it's that
like
online
avocado.
shops substitute one. Yeah, I didn't ask for an avocado. Okay, the third subclass, Artillerist. So this is the one with the guns, essentially. Again, a few more updates on this. Not too many, actually.
No.
Same sort of thing. The tool, basically, all these subclasses get the tool proficiency, which basically means that you can craft things faster.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know about you, I didn't care about it beforehand. I don't know. But again, maybe it's more important because we do now have crafting rules for the in the 2024.
It's true, and they've added those more ruley based things. Like I think in that sense of what we were talking about earlier about trying to gamify the things outside instead of it just being, oh, you just craft something and it happens, which I think a lot of people will do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, how much downtime do you need? We take that downtime. Done. You know, like let's not do the rolls and everything like that. But we've gone to a library to get +4. You know, like those sorts of things. But people do it, and I'm all good to people for doing it. I think it's actually quite a cool class. I've always quite liked it. I mean, I've played with people which are armorers and battle masters. I've never played with anyone who's an alchemist or an artillerist, but having a really cool cannon with you is great. And you just imagine a blustering British person going, blah, blow the cannon.
Yeah, very much like, signal the troops are about to go.
Flamethrower.
And I wonder the reason why the Artillerist maybe hasn't been around as much, because the Eldritch Cannon itself, again, cool idea. You have a cannon, you can create it, but you were locked in previously with the kind of cannon it was.
Yes.
So, you know, now we have options of like flamethrower, force ballista, protector, which I believe were the same ones from Tasha's, but you had to choose it. That was specialization, and then you were kind of locked into it. So, but now you can like, well, I don't need a flamethrower because we've got people with fireball. I need something else. So now you can change what that kind of cannon is, what type it is, which I quite like. Again, maybe sorry, I keep going back to the Alchemicalist now, but maybe that's okay. Maybe you're like, today I'm going to be a healer, but tomorrow I might be a poisoner. I don't know. Yeah. It's just, I feel like it's nice because it's such a, it's nice to have a damaging thing like this, but rather than lock yourself in and go, oh, it's a different situation now, I can't easily change. I very much appreciate this change of like, you can, you build, weapons, you're a weaponsmith. You know what the right weapon is for the right situation, And
it feels like a little bit more of that could happen in the sense of like they could also have abilities that like better at crafting weaponry, like having some sort of like a bit of the blacksmith to them, you know what I mean? So here's a bit of the ability to just create a really cool sword, infuse weapons to +1 by just expending a spell slot, an additional to your magical tinkering or whatever the other, I've forgotten the term now, replicate item, as in you can actually additional to that have up to your intelligence modifier, use those numbers to infuse weapons with a magical proficiency. So you could go up to 1 set of +3 and a +2, or you could do 5 +1s, and you could do that for your party. It would feel like a nice sort of like helping out the rest of the party sort of supporting class thing, which I think would be kind of cool.
The other thing to note as well is that you can now explode your cannon for the action when it gets when it gets to 0 hit points. You can just be like, everyone get ready, get back, and you just explode it if you're within 60 feet of it. So that's really cool as well.
They've been playing Warhammer.
Yeah.
That happens when a tank, if any sort of machine, you roll a d6, and if it lands on a 1, it blows up, sort of things, which is always fun. But you couldn't choose if it blows up. But and I think that would be kind of, I'd like if it was, I kind of would like if it was that you don't know if it's going to blow up. You have to roll.
Yeah, 50-50. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, rather than it just exploding and you're next to it, you go, oh no, consequences of my actions. Now you can choose whether it just becomes inert or anything like that.
And then 15 double firepower. It's good. It's great
cannons.
To have more cannons, and having the half cover whilst within 10 feet of your cannon is it's kind of nice. Like this whole idea of you could It feels it's very particular for a particular type of situation that you're going to be playing. Like, it just feels weird if you're like in a battle with, I don't know, Vecna on the top of a mountain, and then suddenly like, everyone over here behind the cannon, and like Vecna's going to be okay with you just getting behind the cannon.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, again, maybe it's more the protector kind of thing where you admit like some positive energy around you or something like that. But I still like the idea of Vecna going, what is this newfangled thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Say hello to my little friend.
Yeah. And then finally, last but by no means least, the Battlesmith. And everyone's favourite, mine included as well, because you get your Steel Defender.
Yes.
I love a good Steel Defender. It's my favourite thing in the world. But again, not much in terms of updates here either. It just means, currently the updates are that, again, tool proficiency means you can craft weapons quicker, and that the Steel Defender itself has had little changes to its stat block as well.
It's a very minor change, really.
Very minor, because I think it was so good. That is literally it. Like, it was just everything about it.
It's a perfect thing. And it's actually, ironically, the best ranger class there is out there.
Literally, that's what it is. It is ranger animal companion.
Wild.
Yeah, it's great.
Because it is. You get a better companion that does so many more things. It's really, really good. And so, if you want to play a ranger, I would suggest because you want to have a companion ranger with a companion, I would say be an artificer. It makes so much more thematic sense. I would say add your herbalism kit and your medicine kit, and you've got all the healing potions. You've got all this stuff that you do, and you also got yourself this, your companion, and it so much better, definitely.
Then the only thing I was going to mention was that, so previously one of the when we talked about infusing items, again it gave some examples of ones that could be, but one of them was this homunculus servant, and now that has been changed into a spell, so it could be access to anyone, because they didn't want to get rid of it. And so if you weren't someone who had a Steel Defender, for example, you could have this thing. So it's a level 2 conjuration spell, and it's you summon a special homunculus in an unoccupied space within range. It uses the homunculus stat block, but you can determine what it looks like. But it gives examples of like a mechanical looking bird, winged vials, miniature animated cauldrons, all that sort of thing. So again, it doesn't do too much, but if you were like wanted something in terms of like having a creature that fought alongside you, you can absolutely have this. You don't have to be tied to that Battlesmith one if you didn't want to, which I thought is great. I didn't get to use the homunculus when I was playing originally, but I also didn't know really what I'd do with it, because I had my Steel Defender S-type thing, and then this homunculus, and I was like, I'm always going to use my big robot dog. I don't care for this other in my head a very scary homunculus. Sounds scary to me, like it's like a hello. I'm like, so I'm like, oh god, I don't know how he's going to react. Please go deal with the battlefield,
Yeah, it always makes me think, and don't Google this, people at home, but the sensation homunculus, which is, it's a human body proportioned to where your nerve endings are. So like the things that are the most sensitive parts of your body get bigger, and it's it's not an attractive thing to look at, and also it's over 18 to a certain extent as well, but it's like this really weird, creepy goblinoid creature. And I remember them showing it in, I think we saw it in like biology class at A level. They showed it to us, and I was like, that's fucking terrifying. Still scarred by it. So
this homunculus servant, that is now like a spell, but then the rest of the infused items sort of thing, they're now put in the magic items. So if you wanted to make a helm of awareness, or the mind sharpener was one I came up with for my one. Repeating shot is also quite good. Like, you just have ammunition that you don't have to go collect. It just, if you're shooting with a bow and arrow, like, you just like pew pew pew, like it's just automatic. I really like that as well. So that's already I have to say on the Artificer. Like, I love this class. I think it's really fun. It encourages you to be creative. So maybe you need to be a bit more switch on during the game, perhaps, and be willing to try things and break things. But like I said, the big thing I'm a bit like about is that currently there's no flavor to it. It's just, again, maybe it's just the way we've come back from like lots of adventures and stories and stuff. I'm just like going like, give us examples. When would I ever use a bedroll which will disappear in an hour, you know? Like,
but I don't think, but then again, I don't think they do that enough generally, even in the books. Like, it's one of the biggest failings in a lot of the source books is that, you know, examples, this is where you could use it. Here's an interesting, like, alternate way of doing that. And I know there's so many resources out there, so many people playing it, and you can watch really good examples of people doing that. But again, it feels like it's lacking. Like, like I was talking about the spell thing I was doing, and I was like, you know, Dan, I will give this, you know, I want people to be interpretive, and then also be like, well, here's a few examples, because it's kind of like, if you just go there, people just go, what? I don't know. Okay, I'll just do the baseline, you know?
Yeah, so, sorry, this is the magic thing you were talking about with Wraithborn, because we didn't record that bit. Sorry, because I was like, what's Hamilton talking about? So Hamilton's got his own magic system for Wraithborn. We were talking about it off podcast, Yeah,
sorry, yes. But even in that, there's lots of indie TPRPGs that are really good at, they have much more esoteric spells and stuff like that, and therefore give you much more detail. But even in that, I think just showing people, like, fun ways of using mending, for example, is always an interesting one, you know, for which is part of this. Or saying your steel defender doesn't technically need to be made of steel. You could reformat this as an armor, like as in like a physical flesh, like exoskeleton, you know, spider or something like that. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they get away with it by saying, like, you could make it whatever you want. But yeah, I agree. I always like seeing an example going, oh, it's not like that, but I like that. You know, I agree with you. And I think, throughout the whole UA stuff, normally we've had like a little bit at the top saying like what it is, etc. And here it's not really given us much. It's just like, all it is that the Artificer sees magic as a complex system waiting to be decoded and then harnessed in their spells and inventions. And I'm like, oh, okay. What does that mean in, say, I mean, maybe they're not in Greyhawk, but, you know, Kryn or Forgotten Realms or anything like that. Because we've had that previously, but
and it does actually mention them, say, in Forgotten Realms, the islands of Lantan is home to many artificers in the world of Dragonlance. Tinker Gnome's a member of this class.
Is that Tasha's? That's
that's the Tasha's one. Even mentions Sigil as well. So,
but there you go. There's the Artificer. I hope more people do try it out and try the UA out, because I like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was one of my first characters, because that encouraged me to get into D&D and play it.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
I'd already played a little bit of it, but I was like, I really want to play a character like this now. So there you go.
And also, if you want to do more sci-fi based games, you want to like utilize it, because I think it's something I don't know how much we talked about it, but it's something that I think is less and less talked about. The D&D as a baseline can be used in many, many settings. Like I think you can reappropriate D&D for lots of different settings. And I think this one is a perfect example if you want to go for a cyberpunk or sci-fi style setting, but you're comfortable knowing the D&D rules. And this is probably a bit silly, because you should go and play all the other games out there that are better at doing that. Yeah. But I think it's just saying you can, though, if you wanted to. And for example, like there's those Warhammer YouTubers who have gone and made a show set in the Warhammer 40k universe using D&D, of which I was slightly disappointed. And, you know, because they're like, well, we know D&D. And it's like, yeah, but you know, it's that you've got a big following. You could be promoting some smaller creators.
They could get sponsorship from,
and they should do, and they should. And I know it's a bit like they should do, and that's a bit entitled of me to say that to them in some respects. So I get that, but if you are like, I just haven't got the time to learn a new system, or I can't afford to buy a new system, or I just want to try it out. I've got the Artificer class. Here is that opportunity to play in a different setting.
Absolutely. I think even like if you use the Artificer class as a way to get off, like I said, as we sort of talked about quite a bit, home brewing, of like changing other things. If you're like, I want to make my own class. I mean, this is the thing. I know people just go and make their own stuff. They don't need this as well. But if you need a push, look at like what you could do with the Artificer and be like, okay, how could I put it, like you said, for a sci-fi setting, maybe even let's say a film noir setting. Like I can imagine, like again, Eldritch Cannon, like that could be something like, again, a gunfight or anything like that. Steel Defender, you could change it a little bit around. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a good basis to try other settings in, and then you could look to other things like, like you said, Ranger, Rogue. It's like, well, these can also be reskinned as well. So if it gets you to play different stories, I'm all for it. And we've said this before, like both you and I certainly started off in D&D, and now we've looked at other games as well, and we talk about them so much as well. But I tend not to worry about people going like, because there's that Facebook group that's like, I'm begging you, please play another game that's not D&D. And I agree. I think everyone should be open to it, but I will never shame anyone who has a regular game of D&D, because that's more than most people, right?
Exactly. So, and it's hard, isn't it? Because you do sit there going, there are so many other games, but also it's time, money,
ease, learning,
ability to engage brain, neurodiversity can also, I know that as ADHD, like trying to force myself to read a new book. I've learned D&D. I cannot be bothered, sometimes to like read them. And then you do read it, you're like, oh, it was so worth it. But it's getting through that point.
Yeah.
And I know that's rich for someone who works on a DM's book club. So obviously I do read a lot of these things, but it takes effort.
Well, I mean, maybe this is as good a time as any, but we are restarting doing version 2 of the GM's book club coming up soon. Yes. So if people are interested in, look, 2 sides of the mug I gave Hamilton many years ago. We're changing it over to the GM's book club. But yeah, we're going to restart the GM's book, because we did try a little trial error, and then we both got busy. So we're going to restart it and redo it, and go and read through some RPGs as well that aren't D&D. Maybe they'll be on this feed, maybe they'll be on a different feed. Who knows? We'll probably discuss it. But yeah, we're going to look at some new books and see, like, again, what is it? Is it the system? Is it the setting? Is it just literally people around the table that make the difference? Because I think it's a combination of all three. Spoilers, but we're looking forward to trying to. Hamilton's got the first book out there, which is exciting.
Just reminded me when you're saying it. I was like, I better get that down from my shelf so I can take it to my bed, which is normally where I read before I go to sleep. So, and I'm going to be enjoying really happy fun times.
That's definitely the one. Yeah. So our first book, I'll just announce it now. Why the heck
not? We can announce it, can't we?
We can announce it. Yeah. So we've got 6. We've got picked. Basically, our idea is that we're going to do 6 episodes, 1 episode on each different RPG that we're going to look at, and we've both chosen 3.
Yep.
And we've tried to go for games that are what we've enjoyed. We've either read in the past, we've gone, oh yes, this is good, but also like looking at now, stuff like that. And so obviously, please feel free, listeners, to send in suggestions. We'd love to hear some suggestions of stuff. But the first game we're going to be looking at is Eat the Reich. Anti-fascist vampire game by Roland Bard, which again is stunning art by Will Kirby, and also won lots of Ennies this year, last year, 2024. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. And that's
absolutely stunning book.
It's stunning in person, isn't it? Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and I met Will, and his art and the quality of this book.
Yeah,
I don't think that there's very few books that can sit in the same level as how good this book looks, from art to layout to quality of the document. I would say, I think of all of the books I own, I'd say that there is, even over Mork Borg, right? I think this is the one you have to own as a book, right?
Yep, I agree.
Because Mork Borg's great, and it has really cool things like it glows in the dark, different symbols, if you didn't know that, and stuff like that. The hardback is beautiful, and that is probably it's up there with it, and it's great. Obviously, I love that book, but Eat the Reich is just, it's got raised element, it's got embossing, it's got UV, it's got beautiful fold out pages at the back. It's just,
every page has a not a secret, but every page you look at it and you find something new in it when you read it through.
Artwork is just it's just stunning. I love it.
I would also say there is a black and white version of just the text as well that you can get a PDF.
Yes.
So you're not, if you're someone who finds it overstimulating to have lots of art images as well, check it out. So yeah, so this is like a pre-announcement. I don't know when the actual first episode will go out because we've not recorded it yet at the time of recording this. But yeah, people can get excited and start reading Eat the Reich with us, and then we can discuss it later on. So yeah. Yeah. But Hamilton, thank you for chatting to me very early morning about the Artificer. Again, like I said, one of my favourite classes. Where can we find you? What projects have you got coming up? What's new with you, my friend?
My main focus still is Wraithborn. I've been working very hard on that in the background. I think I announced last time that we've got miniatures now. We're going to have it's going to be a stretch goal. I've done the finances, so if we hit £5,000 on the Kickstarter, then we can make it work and have a little. There'll be a little add-on that you can buy with, which will be a mini campaign set in one of the islands, which is all covered in a toxic mist, and they've done some weird experiment to open Heaven's Gate, and you're going to be on the search for that in the mists as dressed up as a cool ironclad, as they're called. So they're like a bit like armorers in a sense. So I'm excited about that, and I've been drawing my ritual magic system out as a table. I've had the idea for a while, but like actually now getting it down as a physical like magic circle thing, I'm quite excited by it.
No, it looks really cool.
Yeah, and so that's really that's everything I'm doing. You can find the Kickstarter, I'm sure, in the links in the show notes below. And talking about wandering in toxic mists, all I can think when I'm there is, well, where am I?
Great question. Where are we in general? Is like in the middle. I'm currently. It's snowing outside. That's how. It's quite cold here. But where are we? I'm so glad you asked. Otherwise, what am I rolling? Is a twice monthly tabletop RPG one shot podcast where we do lots of different RPG systems and game design interviews, which is pretty much what we talked about at the end of this episode, which is always good. At time of recording, we have just done, as of yesterday, our Monty Python live stream for the One Shot Network, which went as well as you can imagine, with all the shenanigans and stuff. I told a very rude joke at the end, and it saved me from getting killed. So you know what? Big tick for Fiona. So that's going to be out on the podcast. It probably is out on the podcast already. The VOD will be up as well. So please go check that out, because we're going to try and do more live streams this year on the One Shot Network a little bit. Because, again, try and get us out there a bit more. It's also incredibly easy content to do live streams, it turns out. I don't have to edit anything. Go check out What Am I Rolling. I am doing the Too Long Didn't Read through RPG stuff, because, again, that's something I enjoy doing. Haven't done any, at time of recording because of the live stream, but we'll be back to it ASAP, and we do lots of different RPG ones. So again, if you have any suggestions for anything like that, or just want to talk to us about RPGs in general, come to our Discord. There's another link in the show notes. We love talking about RPG stuff. I've been talking about the Traitors at time of recording as well, because that's my guilty pleasure, just like chatting away through that. And also Hamilton has his own Discord as well, Fueled by Chaos as well, so you can come check out all the results from the previous sort of Necromunda competition. That's all out now. I was looking for it the other day. Really exciting. Some really cool stuff.
Yeah, the video's up there, so you can watch that and see all the winners. I'm just organising all the prizes at the moment.
All the logistics of sending out.
All the logistics of that. It's a lot. We'll get there.
We'll get there. All right, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I will see you next week for another episode of the DM's Book Club. But until then, we will
see you on the flip side.
Bye.